First of all, I have to be honest with our viewers. I came over to your house yesterday for 5 minutes.
True.
I peeked in your house, and I have to tell you, your house has star quality.
Thank you, Lynda.
This episode of Behind the Design is brought to you by the Volvo XC90, the evolution of the luxury SUV.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Where are you now?
Now I'm in the living room.
Love. First of all, I have to tell you, your house has got a true Scandi feel. It's got the light wood, it's got the fabulous light, the light colors, natural cottons and linens. It's got those hallmarks of Scandi style. Were you conscious of that, or did that just happen?
I think I was conscious of that as I see what I'm drawn to, and some of the social things I follow. My favorite one is My Scandinavian Home, and I realized that I'm so obsessed with her, and so I suppose so, but I think it was probably not by design. I do like the lighter woods because of the light it provides. I do like the lighter colors, paint colors, whites, because I like light and light surrounding. But I do also love the heritage and the traditional elements of the home, the molding. But I think overall, yeah, you know best. It's probably a Scandi feel overall for sure.
It's Scandi with other hits. And I love that you kept the ceiling moldings in the living room. Can you show us?
You see them there?
Yep, I can. They're beautiful. Yeah, you kept those. Then you went to that deep gray, which is beautiful against the white. Mm-hmm. And the fabrics are pretty casual. But what I noticed, Trish, in your house is that it's casual, but it's really high quality casual.
I think so. That's the problem with having expensive taste. There was a real need to do the mix, to do the high and the low, so that it was affordable and manageable. Yeah. And we sort of picked the things that mattered most.
Can you show us a little more of that room? Please?
Sure. So these were existing bookshelves, which we loved, and we did. There's a mystery nod with some traditional mix there.
Did you paint the fireplace dark?
We did.
Yeah, and that's what you're talking about. Those dark hits which ground the eye and really kind of give it guts.
And then here is a new coffee table, which we're still.
Okay, that's fantastic.
Where some people might track and obsess about fashion, I obsess about things for the home. And so this is from Montauk, this coffee table. And I think it's made of suede. And it does require a tray of some sort on it so that we can put our coffee or drink or whatever on it. But it's really an art piece, so I'm hesitant to cover up. But I do cringe when people put their shoes and feet up on it.
So this is not for the 5 kids. This is for you and your partner.
Well, growing up, we used to have a room that was the living room, and we called it the not allowed in room. And
yes, perfect. Perfect.
That doesn't work in this house. We use every square inch, and everybody does. And there's feet up on the suede coffee table, and it's up to me to just roll with it and deal with it and loosen up.
Good attitude. So you know what I would love? Could you go to the front door?
I'm going to the front door.
Because the front door has such a cute story.
So I'm learning here that I'm doing, let's see, the front door is...
You're doing perfectly.
With the builder's permits still on, and what you liked, Lynda, was the wallpaper here. And there we go. This is the front entrance.
Cool wallpaper.
Peel and stick.
Peel and stick?
Peel and stick, and it's a Toronto designer as well, which is kind of fun. And a woman, of course, to boot.
And what's her name?
It's from Good Tile. I love when there's a find I can share with you. That's so fun.
I want all the finds. Good Tile. And I know that you're really into owner-operated sources, makers, and I think that's fantastic.
And local when we can, and it's doubly exciting when we can find someone close by who's done something really innovative and different.
So I understand you had a designer help you.
The fabulous Veronica Martin, and she is the best.
And what did she say when you picked peel and stick?
I think she was probably horrified, but she loved the pattern. I don't think we realized it was peel and stick until we fell in love with the pattern. And then she just insisted that they install it regardless and figure it out. there you go.
And anyway, we shouldn't penalize wallpaper for being super practical. I mean, it probably wipes clean.
Probably, and it's probably not as cost effective as it should be. So it wasn't a savings. It was more of a mistake that ended up being right.
It looks great. So tell our viewers a little bit about this project that you undertook. The concept is light and airy, and it's got a modern twist, but the great room, which is what you're in right now, is really the heart of your house.
I think so. It's where the action is. It's where the hub is, and it's where we cook and eat. So I think it's where the action is. It was a really fun project that always takes a little bit longer and a little bit more stressful, but we're pretty settled now. I didn't move far from our original family home where we raised our kids, but this is a new chapter and a new blended family, so a new start. And it's a really fun mix of the heritage old with some new ideas that are ours.
And you're a big deal cook. You've got lots of cookbooks that you've published, and you have another one coming out. Is it next year?
I do. So the third book, My New Table, will be out in the fall of 2021. I feel like it's almost done draft form and photo form. So you're the first one who's had the sneak peek.
Yeah, we'll look forward to that. Okay, please tell us a little bit about the room you're sitting in.
Sure. We're in the back of the house where the kitchen is one with the dining table and out to the backyard. And there's a sitting room that I'm facing right now because we always liked the idea of the person who's at the sink or in the kitchen wants to be part of the conversation with the person who's sitting at the table and doesn't want to miss out if something important happens to potentially be on the television. So this is a room that works for 3 different groupings, and you can opt in and out depending on what's going on.
And there's really no reason to have 2 tables anyway.
Not in the way we live. I mean, we're a pretty casual lot, and so there's still a lot of use for counter sitting for breakfast or coffee or a glass of wine or a quick visit or dinner for 2. And the table is really in the middle, literally in the middle of the house, but it still can sit 8 people or more if need be. And the use of a formal dining room is just sort of gone away, replaced with the need for other types of living, whether it's sitting doing work on your computer or reading the magazine. So I think Veronica got a kick out of a couple of the things that we had. So this this I found in my mom and dad's barn, and it literally was a chicken coop, and it was covered in chicken, God knows what. And I loved the surface of it.
It's fabulous.
And I used the surface of it for a lot of the photos in the cookbook. Food showed so nicely on it. And so I had it there temporarily. And sweet Veronica said, "You're moving the chicken coop when you're done, aren't you?" I said, "Maybe not. I sort of like it where it is." And the other thing you see in the background, there's a red ladder. I also permanently borrowed that from my mom and dad. And it now has a semi-permanent home for blankies and cozy throws.
Okay, let's talk about the kitchen, because you're a big deal cook and you love cooking. I just want to hear about your rules for designing a great kitchen.
Well, I actually rely and defer to my parents the most. My mom is an expert cook, and they have renovated and moved the most, and they have the taste and practicality I respect the most. So when it came to the minutia details of the kitchen, my mom was in charge.
Lucky girl.
Whether she said, that shelf is too high, a second shelf doesn't make sense because you can't reach your coffee. So there was a few sort of guiding principles where Veronica and I wanted as much open floating as possible. We do have a lot of entertaining dishes, whether it's for styling for the cookbook or for having parties. I have a bit of a dish obsession. So we needed a spot to showcase that, as well as some of the old stuff I've collected over time. But that balanced with covering the uglies. So we met in the middle and had one cupboard to cover the uglies, and that became the coffee station. So I also wanted to designate areas that wouldn't really move based on the way we live. So I have like the morning ritual. We have the morning ritual. We eat toast in the morning and we drink coffee in the morning. So the coffee station was always going to be sort of a fixed. And then my mom always says, you want to be at the sink where it's the best light and the best view, because that's where you spend the most time. So
Oh, true.
which is true. So that became the prime real estate, and it's where the previous owner had the sink in the same location, so it made sense as well. But it's where you look out to the back. And I think the main thing for all of us in a kitchen is the functionality of it. It has to be beautiful with all of the materials we love, but most importantly, it has to work. And the sink is one and the dishwasher is the other. So we made sure that the dishwasher was only a pivot away from the drawer where we have the dishes, the drawer where we have the cutlery and the cups. So it's all basically this movement. And that we allocated an adult zone where we actually had a bar set up for the pretties so that we could actually feel grown up.
I like that. The uglies and the pretties. I love this. And where's the food, by the way?
So the food, and that's always the biggest flaw I find, is we don't leave enough consideration or room for food, despite the fact that with cooking, we're buying a lot of fresh and we're cooking. We used to shop more frequently. We still need a good substantial pantry for our dried goods. So that whole unit, floor to ceiling, is dried goods for spices and cans and boxes. And
excellent. And so what are your favorite materials to use in the kitchen? Like, what do you love for your counter?
Marble for me, like a warm marble with the warm earth tones in it, was something that was kind of important. I wanted to have elements of like living material. So the hood is an attempt for this sort of copper, this like love for the old, that sort of European industrial restaurant.
It looks great. It's subtle.
The copper bowl, it's sort of a pickup on that. And you already noted the sink, like just to have that imperfect, live, ever-changing material. And then, of course, the whiteout for the floating shelves. I love that.
Well, I was in Ginger's last week, and I saw that faucet. And I said, oh my God, I love this faucet because it has that aged brass finish, which is really hard to find.
It is.
And then I walked into your house, and there it was. I don't think many people have that.
I'm pretty happy about it. I get as excited as a piece of jewelry over that faucet.
It's pretty great. So I see you're on a Wishbone chair sitting at a light table. Looks like it might have been custom made.
It was custom made. Veronica has a custom table maker, and it's black steel that runs up from the leg through the wood, just to kind of break it up and make it a little bit more interesting.
So when you were planning this house, did you think about sustainability and being environmentally correct as much as possible? Because knowing you probably did.
Yeah, of course. I think that we kind of can't not consider that, especially now moving forward. So a few things. First, the general contracting company we used, that's sort of their footprint, meaning that the subtrades and materials they're used. So that was sort of the starting point. But then also windows and doors. We learned that the boring stuff like HVAC actually makes a huge difference. And so unfortunately, we had to put in a whole new HVAC system, but what it did was provide a better footprint. And then windows and doors, as you know all too well, the double thermal pane, it just made, so we did it structurally, but then also from an interiors perspective, the use of what we already had. I mean, we had a lot of stuff. There's a lot of great things that we inherited or pickpocketed from my mom and dad, things that were resalvaged and reused for totally different purposes, and really using what we already had and maybe doing a fix to it or a tweak to it. So it was sort of that blending of old and new that made it feel kind of lower waste and just more responsible.
That's great. That's great. Light fixtures are fabulous in your house.
So on the main floor, there's a company called Lightmaker Studio.
Yes.
And she's a Toronto woman, and she's actually in the distillery, and I have been obsessively following her for a while. So we pretty well got one of all of her lights. So this is her, as is the one over the table.
Chandelier, whatever. Yep.
Chandelier. And also hers, my little cook's nook, the desk area.
I love that cook's nook. Did you clean that up for me, or is it always like that?
No one's here. So there, you can see her lights there. You see her lights? Yeah. There you go. So those are also her pendant lights. And so the light fixtures played a huge part in the decision-making of the house, because I feel like the lights almost came first.
This is a great tour. So living this life where everything is environmentally correct, organic, upcycling, reuse, all of those things are just as part of this journey you've been on for some time. And now you feel you have a house that reflects your values?
It does, and that's such a nice summary. I'm gonna thank you. I think that sort of summarizes it, because I've learned so much from my parents who live on a farm, and I just always took for granted that you'd get carrots in the summer and you'd get squash in the fall, and these are things that we were really spoiled by, and they're just like a really natural part of how we live. And we have sort of one foot here in the city, but also out of the city. And so the sort of access to local food and is really important. And it's something I now realize that we really have to appreciate, and that we have access to now in a broader way. So I came home with a basket full. I think I might have given you one of cucumbers. And instead of panicking saying, what am I going to do with these cucumbers? Well, my grandmother just pickled them. And same thing with beets. I have the old jars, and tomatoes are in abundance right now. So we make tomato butter and then red pepper jam. Like, these are things I really did with my grandma and my mom growing up. And now I just feel so grateful to be able to do it. And then that's what I give to people. I'm like, here's a jar of jam. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. I just want to tell our viewers that your house, your kitchen, and you cooking, and your recipes exclusive for us are in the October issue. So that's exciting. You have a ton of energy. We have a common friend, Stacy, right? Yeah. Who's a great friend of both of ours. And she's always telling me on our ravine walks what Trish is up to. And I'm always amazed. It's like, you're tireless. You have,
well, so
all these, well, yeah, but all those great projects, and now this. Anyway, it's fantastic. Thank you so much for this. Inspiring, really inspiring.
So are you, so thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
See you in the ravine.
Okay.
This episode of Behind the Design is brought to you by the Volvo XC90, the evolution of the luxury SUV.